This is such an exciting day for me because we are having our very first interview with cute Madie. And Madie Mathews is not only amazing in everything that she does, but she's an amazing friend, especially for being the very first interview that I'm doing on my podcast. So thank you so much. I'm so excited that you're here. I'll give you a formal introduction leading up to this, but I just want to tell you what I think of Madie personally. So I met Madie a few years ago. Oh my gosh, stop. You're so cute. I met Madie a few years ago, and the minute I met her, I was like, she is so genuine and so authentic. And like what you're going to see today is what you get with Madie. And so I'm just so excited that you're here. So thank you so much for being the very first interview I've ever done on a podcast.
That was like the most flattering intro of all time. Like blushing.
So
and like,
nice.
It's funny because I feel the same way about you. Like,
Aww.
I don't think I've met anyone like more genuine and just like kind and giving and like empowering. Like you really are just like a go-getter, girl's girl, like so supportive and everything. So I'm really honored to be here.
Girl.
So thank you.
Well, this is going to be super fun. So I was just telling her a few minutes ago, it's like, I am so excited to ask you these questions because these are some that I've personally like, let's go on a double date and learn all these things. But instead, I'm actually going to invite you on my podcast and selfishly ask you all the questions. So let's just get right into it. I want to know, just give everyone a brief introduction to you and Mitch and just your life, 2 to 3 minutes, what you would tell everyone, high level, and then we'll ask you all the details.
Okay, I might talk your guys' ears off.
No, I love it. You go for it.
But yeah, so I was born and raised in Utah. I played soccer my entire life. It pretty much was like my identity. Like anything bad that was happening in my life, I always had soccer to rely on. And so, yeah, I ended up playing at BYU, and then I also ran track at BYU. So I love everything, health, wellness, sports, all of that. I actually majored in exercise and wellness and then minored in communications. So I wanted to be a personal trainer. Who knew? I didn't really know where that was taking me. I just knew I love sports and talking to people too. So that would be
It's
kind of
a
fun.
good mix of both.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then at BYU, I met my husband, Mitch. I caught him at the tail end of his football or his even college career. So he played football at BYU and I played soccer, and we had a mutual friend kind of set us up. And so, yeah, we met at BYU, and then now we have 2 beautiful daughters, crazy ages. You know how it goes. You're in the thick of it too.
Yes.
Yeah, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And yeah, now Mitch is on his entrepreneurial journey, and I'm just following his craziness.
I love that. Well, the thing that I love about both of you guys, because you're such a power couple, but you're also super strong individuals. And I think that's what creates such a power couple, So I'm excited to dig in more to that, because I think the main focus of this podcast really is to tell her story, your side of it.
Yeah.
And I love Mitch. He's so awesome. And I love seeing his entrepreneurial journey, and he's on podcasts and stages and flying all over to speak at all these different things. And I have just seen you I've spoken at some of those things or been a participant in watching him speak, and I always see you supporting him and encouraging him. Yeah. And so I'm excited that you get to have the stage today and that we get to hear your story and your side of it.
Thanks. So. Well, I love supporting him. When he wins, I win. So you know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's it's fun for me.
It's such a great, you guys have such a great relationship that way. So I love that. Okay. So I want to know details. I always love hearing how people meet their spouses. So tell us, I know you met at BYU through a friend, but what are the juicy details?
Oh my gosh. This is when people ask Mitch and I this question, we both kind of light up because we're oh boy, it's just our favorite story to tell.
Yes, yes.
And so if he was sitting here right now, he'd be rolling his eyes because he has a different story than me.
Okay,
but mine's right.
Yes,
mine's right.
Yes.
Okay,
we're here to know the truth.
This is the truth. Yes. This is the tea. Okay. So we met at BYU. I knew of him, but I didn't know who he was. I'd see him around, but we weren't really friends at all. And I was so backstory. It was my very first day, not first day. It was my freshman year.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was in the athletic building, and there's like a study area in there. And of course I'm like scouting around like cute boys.
Like,
'Cause I'm
hello.
like, where,
Yes.
who's cute and all that stuff, scoping around. And I'm studying, and I look up, and I just see this really like cute, tall guy walking across the hallway. And I'm like watching him, and I'm like, what sport is he? And I saw like football, and he was like in his sweats, and he had his socks with his like slide shoes on, and he just like kind of looked like he just got back from practice, and he was really tired and kind of like walking like swaggy.
Yeah.
And as I was watching him, like, he looks like a douche. Oh my gosh, I love that. I was being so judgmental, and I'm like, and in my head, looking at him, I was like, I will never marry a football player.
Yes.
Just because
Oh
he
my
was
gosh.
walking around like feet on the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny that was him, because I literally was like, I'm never marrying a football player.
Yes. Never
And
say
so
never.
yeah, and so fast forward a little bit. Mitch and I had a mutual friend, and she was like, I want to set you up with somebody. And he was like, okay, who is it? She's like, oh, Madie. And so he's like, okay, because he kind of knew who I was. And so yeah, we went on our first date, and we were just like I was laughing the entire time, and all of my judgments of him were washed away. Yeah, because he was just so nice, so funny, and yeah, so it like clicked right off the bat.
I love that.
Yeah.
And did you guys date for a while, or?
Yeah.
How
So we
long did
dated
you date?
for like a year, and then we got engaged, and then we like planned our wedding in like Utah,
Yes.
3 months.
Utah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love that.
That's kinda how it went.
And Mitch is from Oregon. He's
Yes.
actually from my what's it
That's-
called? Rival high school.
That's
Yeah. So it
right.
was like, that's so crazy. But I
Yeah.
didn't know him in
When
Oregon.
did you graduate?
09. Yeah.
Oh my
Same as
gosh,
him.
you guys were there at the same
Yeah.
time. That's crazy.
So we have lots of mutual friends, but didn't know that till
Isn't it funny?
we met
Such
you
a
guys
small
here.
world.
Like, how did we meet you guys in Utah?
Yeah.
But not anyway.
Yeah.
So crazy. Okay, I want to know details of like from that point forward. Like, where did life take you?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of entrepreneurial journeys have you guys been on together?
Yeah.
And-
So it's funny looking back on like how we worked out. Like obviously everything happens for a reason, but like it was his senior year, and we started dating 2 months before he graduated.
oh my gosh.
And I was a sophomore.
Yeah, you did catch him right before he left.
It was I like dating him. My like expectations were low, just because he's a football player, Mr. like dating around and all of that stuff. And so I was just like low expectations. If it worked out, great. If not, whatever. But it ended up working out. And so he actually went to the NFL after he graduated, and then I was still playing soccer at BYU.
Oh.
And
oh my
so
gosh. Married. You guys were married.
So yeah, we were dating at this point.
Oh, you were dating at this
dating
point.
at this
Okay.
point. And so we were doing distance while dating.
Oh
So
my
it was all
gosh.
like, what, like
Yes.
fresh, like 2 months.
Oh
it's not
my
like we were
gosh.
dating for a
Yes.
while either.
Yes.
And so he had his thing going on, I had my thing going on, but like we talked every day. We'd FaceTime like every night for like hours.
Oh my
and so like
gosh,
obviously we missed each other,
Yeah.
But it was fun watching him go through his like football career and all of that. And so finally when I graduated, and his football career was over, he started a pest control company. And after I graduated, we moved on out to Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that's where everything kind of started with his entrepreneurial journey. Like obviously NFL, is super cool and all that. And I actually didn't get to go to one football game.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Like his whole.
no, not one.
Oh my
Because,
gosh.
I
Where you
had
just focus soccer, school.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like soccer season's the same as NFL season. And so like
Oh my
there was not
gosh.
even a window, like not even a weekend that I could go out.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it kind of
Yeah.
started with like me having my thing and then him having his thing and us just kind of
Yes.
supporting each other through that.
So cool.
Yeah. And so then we got married while he was in the NFL, and then he started a pest control company while he was in the NFL. And then once I graduated, we moved to Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Like you didn't know anybody.
Didn't know
like
anybody.
Oh my
Anybody.
gosh.
But I was really excited for it.
Yeah. Like new adventure. You're just married. Like all these things.
Newly married, getting
Yeah.
an apartment, like starting a life together. And I lived in Utah my entire life, so I was really excited to like get
Have a
out of
different
Utah and have a different experience. And I was humbled really quick because I went from being just like this excited person to, oh my gosh, what is happening?
Like this is hard.
This is really hard.
Yeah.
Like he was gone from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. because, door to door, you're doing meetings in the morning and then you're knocking all day.
Oh my gosh.
And then you knock until it's dark.
Yes.
And then you come home. And
and I feel like in Utah, we hear so often about like, oh, door-to-door sales is so hard and, all these things. And yes, it totally is. But like also the wife's perspective or the spouse, if, the woman's out knocking, whatever it is, it's like, okay, that would be super hard to be uprooted from your family and friends and all the things and then go live somewhere where you're like, I don't even know, like all these like bugs. Like, I don't know. That would be really hard.
Seriously. And then, just trying to like get 2 feet on the ground for yourself. Like I went from having a like set schedule.
Yes.
With practices at this time, you're eating this, your classes at this time, and then going to a different city and I'm like, oh, now what?
Totally.
And especially because he's not there all the time. And so I felt really, really lost in that time. But he was out, kind of thriving in a way.
Yeah. Like building this
empire, just this company, which was awesome. And so I remember feeling really guilty at that time, being like, I should be supportive, but I'm over here like totally miserable.
Oh my gosh. And like, that's a common like, the dichotomy of like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to feel? And I can imagine you being an athlete, like, I mean, I didn't play collegiate sports, but when I transitioned out of doing volleyball, like full-time, year-round, all the things, you're like, oh, I'm so used to getting my confidence from that.
Exactly.
And so I can only imagine that experience where you're like, okay, I graduated, so I'm not a student anymore. I'm not a collegiate athlete anymore, which I have been my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm married. That's a transition. And now I don't know anybody. Like, Madie, that would be super
It was
hard.
And what's crazy, I mean, it's not crazy, but it was eye-opening because like in that world specifically, and I'm sure other companies are like entrepreneurial careers too, but like a lot of women do feel that way where they are uprooted,
Totally.
They're like, okay, I'm out here doing what?
Yeah.
Like why?
Yes.
And so I think there's
like
a lot of
deep.
Exactly. There's a lot of growth that was happening. Like even though it was painful, it like really taught me, and I'm glad that I had that before, but then it taught me to do it on my own in a way.
Totally.
To like, I'm independent and like I'm in control of like my happiness and I don't want to rely on something else.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
I am like so passionate about that. So I love that. So we can keep going with the entrepreneurial journey, but I want to focus right here on that because I think that's something that so many women can relate to, where like you go through these different phases of your life. You have to like redefine and refigure out who you are.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm a new person this way. Like, hopefully we're changing. Hopefully we're growing, right? So in that moment, like, what do you really feel like helped you figure out I am Madie, like in this new phase of life with all these transitions?
I think it took me, because we were out there for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I think it straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it took me like a year to really be like, okay, get it together.
Yes.
Like you got to do something for you. Like you're not just out here for him. Like, you're out here for you.
You have a life too. Yeah.
And so, and it's hard because I had no connections to anybody. Like, I think if I were in Utah, I'd be like, oh, come work with me at this place or come do this but I had nothing or knew no one out there. And so I really had to go like make things happen for myself. And so I ended up working at Orange Theory and I was training to be a coach there.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun for me and just like doing something for me.
Yes.
Instead of just like cleaning,
waiting at home
and waiting at home for him when I'm wasting time.
You have a brain, you have thoughts, you have ambitions and dreams.
Yes.
And
yeah. And so I think finding something for myself and actually getting out of that like poor me,
totally,
mentality.
Victim mentality.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yeah. And so
totally,
that's kind of just finding something for you and like getting out of your comfort zone a little bit and like putting yourself out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Getting uncomfortable, honestly.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So with that, so then where did you go from there?
So it was funny because right when I was like in training to be a coach at Orange Theory, we decided to move back to Utah.
Oh
and so I told them, I'm like, sorry.
Like, I'm like switching things up.
Going back to Utah. So we went back to Utah, and then I got pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
And then that was a whole other cycle of redefining
another,
yourself. Right when you
another
kind of
step.
are starting to figure something out, you know, and it was like the biggest blessing
That
in the
isn't
world.
the
But
truth, yeah.
that rocked my world where I'm no longer, you know, Madie.
Yes.
I'm also a mom now.
Yes.
And that was very humbling, but
Oh
like the
my
best thing
gosh.
ever. And I know you know how that goes. So yeah, just redefining yourself again. And it's just funny because like for the men, not a lot really changes, but for
Yes.
like the women, it's like
Totally.
crazy. And
It's like
so,
your hormones,
yeah.
like physically,
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, spiritually. Yeah. All
And
of it.
like even like postpartum, there was times where I kind of resented just like men in general for it, because I'm like, I'm over here, my life is changing, and you're just like doing
your own thing.
doing your own
Yes.
thing and the same thing. But then as time went on, I found like the beauty in that, where it's like I've really learned that there's kind of what you said earlier, there's seasons to life. And like right now the season is mom, and that's not gonna, I mean, it will be forever, but like I'm
Yes.
more than like that title too.
That's
like
more of a focus.
yeah, like I can be mom and whatever.
Keyword
you know?
is and.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's kind of where I'm at now, is like
I love that.
supporting him and his stuff, but like I'm also me.
Yes.
So
Well, and it's cool, like hearing your whole story from this perspective, because I feel like you're pulling all these different aspects. Like before, you're like, okay, I was an athlete, and you're still an athlete. It's just looks different than organized sports.
Yeah.
Then it's like you're gathering. So then the next, you're like, okay, I'm a wife, but I'm still Madie outside of being a wife.
Yes.
And then you're trying to figure out what it's like to be a new mom, all of that stuff. You gathered that. And then to still have things for yourself that you feel aligned with, and you have purpose, and, you know, that you're and all of these things, you know, like the and piece ties it all together. So what are you doing now that's just lighting you up that you're excited about?
it's funny. So, and I hate to say influencer, because I actually do think that they're two different things. Like there's like, I like to call it a content creator, you know, in a way where it's like, I love to pull pranks on Mitch and like film it.
I like love those. I'm always like, Madie, let me see what you're doing. This is so fun.
He is like the funnest person to prank, just because like his reactions and what he says,
Yes.
like you never know what's going to come out of his
You're like,
mouth,
we'll
and
see.
it's always hilarious.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's kind of what I love doing now, is just like content creation, and I love editing like videos and putting them together.
Oh my gosh, I didn't
It's
know
really
that you loved
fun.
that part of it.
Yeah. And so I actually started like during COVID. And so it was more just for fun. And like, again,
Like,
I was
what
a
else
mom.
are we gonna do in
Exactly.
COVID? Yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm a new mom, and I also wanted to do something for me, and just like a little creative outlet. And so I just hired like a manager, like to help me with like I'm actually starting to take it as like a job and not just
That
for
is
fun
so
anymore,
cool.
which is really interesting, because I've been doing it for a while, but now I'm like, no, I want to make this
make this a little more
serious.
Yeah,
And like it is still fun, but let's do something with it. And so that's kind of where I'm at now,
That
where
is
I'm like
so
taking more time to
exciting.
do that, and it's really fun.
Okay, so put a plug in for your Instagram and TikTok so everyone can know.
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's Madie.Mathews, with Maddie's with one D and Mathews is with one T. Kind of funky, but
I
that's
love
what it is.
that.
And then same on TikTok, Madie.Mathews. So
And I
Yeah.
seriously love following you. Like,
Thanks.
not only because you're my friend, but I feel like I would follow you even if we didn't know each
Thanks.
other. Like, you're super
You're so
fun.
nice.
So I love that. Okay, I wrote down a bunch of questions because I'm
Okay.
like, I do not want to forget to ask her
I
this,
know.
you know?
I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm like, I got to write it down. Okay, this is one that I feel like a lot of women can relate to.
Yeah.
Is how do you balance your personal goals and ambitions with still supporting Mitch's entrepreneurial journey? And I'm going to even add, and being a mom. It's like all of those things are huge. What's like your secret sauce, would you say?
It's hard because I
make
don't
that
like, I
happen?
don't know if there's like a secret sauce to it, but I think just with everything that I went through and like being lost, like I really do believe that like you have to have something for you. Like every partner needs to have something for themselves. Like they can't rely on somebody else to like be happy.
Totally.
And so, and also like when Mitch succeeds, like I succeed too. Like I get just as excited.
Yes.
And so I think just valuing each other,
Yeah.
you know, and like supporting each other is really key, where it's like, it's good for me to have my thing and good for him to have his thing.
Totally. Yes.
And just being supportive of each other.
With
you
all
know?
of that. Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like Mitch travels a lot. Like how you're doing the mom thing at home a lot. Like how do you function well that way? And then also a follow-up question to that is how do you keep your relationship strong together when you're both having so many things going on individually?
It's so funny because Mitch and I have this conversation all the time where it's like, personally, I'm really go with the flow. But like when it comes to being a mom, I'm very type A. And that was very surprising to me.
Like shocking.
Yeah, or I'm like, where did this come from?
Yes.
And so like accepting help is really hard for me. And like trusting people to watch my kids is like hard for me.
Yes.
And so that's something that I'm working on is accepting help because like when Mitch is home, he really is. Like if I'm tapped out, he's so good at stepping in and like
That's
he's
awesome.
the best dad ever.
Yes.
And so like I'm very grateful for that. But then there's times when he's like out of town.
Yeah. It's like 100% on you. Yeah.
And I have to like start accepting help, especially with like this new like venture that I'm doing with like social media and stuff. Like I can't be doing everything.
Yeah,
and like
totally.
I feel guilty like if I'm on my phone and my kids are there, you know, and so like I think any mom can relate, just like mom guilt in general.
Yes.
And so yeah, just accepting help has been something that I'm working on.
Yes.
And like having scheduled people come. And then what was the second portion of your...
just your relationship together.
When they're gone. It's so funny because I feel like our relationship started off with a distance.
True.
And so it's like we're really good.
You're like, we're used to this.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because when we like were first married, like we dated distance and we were married distance. And so when he came home, I kind of was like scared.
You're like, do I still like you?
Exactly.
I hope I still like
I'm like,
you.
are we going to like step on each other's toes? Like, are we going to be mad at like, or like, is this good? I don't know.
Totally
so I was really nervous and it ended up being like obviously way better than distance.
Totally. Yes.
But we got really comfortable with distance and doing our own things. And so I think when he's gone, it's like I am a very independent person where it's like, yeah, I have my stuff.
Like,
I've got this.
Yeah.
Like, go have fun. And like, well, like he's really good at FaceTiming me all the time.
Totally.
And so, yeah,
oh, I love that.
It's good. Like, I love watching him. And this is one thing I like noted that I wanted to talk about is like, I just, as a wife, want Mitch to feel like a free spirit and like, let him do like what he feels like he's supposed to do. Like I don't want him to feel like he has like a rope around his neck and like you got to be home. Like you have to do this.
Yes.
And so I want him to feel like he can be Mitch.
Totally.
With also though, there's times where I'm like, hello, like I would like a
we're
date
still-
night.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what I
totally.
mean?
Yeah.
So like I will vocalize like, hey, I need you like at home or whatever. But he's very like he's the best.
He gets
dad.
it.
He
Yeah.
gets it. Yeah. But that's like really important to me. Where it's like I want him to feel like he can be Mitch.
Totally.
And thrive. And be creative in that way. So.
What does that look like for you when is it more taking on more responsibility at home so that he can go do his thing or like what do you feel like really
I think
allows
that
you to step into
I think that but it's also I'm a type A and so it's like I love being with my kids.
Yes.
And so it's like I'm almost thriving in that aspect.
Yes.
But then like he can go do his thing too. So yeah, if it's like having a meeting in Salt Lake City with this person or like going and doing that or flying and doing like he's crazy it's called Hell on the Hill.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like stuff like that where I'm just like love watching him like do his thing.
Thrive.
But that doesn't mean I can't either.
Totally. Yeah.
You know?
You're not waiting for him to be home before your life starts or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like one thing that I'm learning is it really does take a village like to like have people who you trust like raise the kids too because like I am a stay-at-home mom and so like that is my portion but like if I need to do something Mitch is there too.
Yes.
Like we're back and forth with each other and I think communication is key and honestly underrated or you know in a lot of relationships where you have to communicate how you're feeling because like there is times where I'm like hello you know and
like,
so, like,
still here
and he was like oh yeah and then he'll like make it tenfold better.
Yes.
You know
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't know if that answered your
question. No, that totally did. I think I don't know. I think that's a common thing where it's like trying to find the balance, you know? And actually this morning with my community, we have Monday morning motivation calls and we were just talking about like the quote of the week was life is your story. Write it well, edit often. And I think like what you're talking about, it's like, yeah, we're writing a story together and individually, but then it's also like, what are we doing to make this go well? But then we have to edit, right? And you have to have a rough draft to go off to be able to edit. And so I like seeing your whole journey. I just feel like that just like came full circle for me of what we were just talking about this morning, because I'm like, I just think that's what you're doing. You're like, yeah, we have a story, we're writing together, and then we're trying to do it well, but we have to edit and be like, oh, hey, got to adjust this. Or like, he probably does the same thing with you. Like, hey, I need more of this or less of this, or this is how we're working together.
Yeah. Seriously. And it's like, you just have to like let that ego go down.
Totally.
And like really listen to the partner. And like, you don't want to resent each other in the process.
Totally.
Like, that's the one thing I learned postpartum. I really resented him, like being Mitch, where I'm like, I'm over here just not like,
like doing my
thing, and you go do you.
Yeah.
And so I really learned to like value that and like vocalize it, and like, so that way he can help me. Because if I don't vocalize that, then how does he know I'm struggling?
He can't read your brain. Yeah, totally.
So,
okay. So tell me this, do you feel like at the beginning of your relationship, you had conversations about this? I'm sure you continue to have conversations, but was it kind of like, here are the roles and responsibilities of this empire that we're building? Or like, how did you decide this was your role, that was his role?
It really, like, we didn't really talk about it, because it's funny, because my mom was like a working mom. Okay. And so I grew up with that. And I remember looking up to her and being like, she's a boss lady. Yes. Like, she actually was my dad's boss.
I love that.
So she was a go-getter, and I really looked up to that. So I thought, like, that's before I had kids, I was going to be a working mom.
Yeah.
And my kids are going to go to daycare, and like, cause I was fine. Then I had kids, and then like everything shifted where I was like type A. And I'm like, what is happening?
Like, I want to have control of what's going on.
Yes.
Here. Yeah.
And so like, I was privileged enough to be able to do that. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. And again,
it gave you the option too.
Gave me the option. And that's where in my mind, I'm reminding myself that there's seasons. Right now is my mother's season, my nurturing season. And that doesn't mean that that's going to stay that way.
Totally.
And so it's like, I think when like talking about it, it's like Mitch is very much like, whatever you want to do. Like, again, like, I'm not putting like, titles on him. He's not doing that to me either.
Yes.
Where he's like, you do whatever you want to do, and I'll do whatever to help support you with that.
Yeah.
So like, as of now, I'm like, this is what I'm choosing. Yes. So I feel very grateful that I have the privilege to do that.
That is so cool.
So,
and to me, that's like true feminism, right?
Yeah.
Is that like, we are at a day and age where we get to choose what we want to do. Yeah. So if you want to stay home, if you want to have your own career, if you want to work Orange Theory, if you want to do, this content creation, you're really stepping into, like, it's so cool that we're different as men and women, but we're becoming like equals as far as opportunities, I
think women are so cool.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the fact that we can do it all. I'm
fully
just
faceted.
Like, power to you,
Yeah, totally. I love that. That is so cool. Okay, so as you're transitioning into this new phase for you, like, what's next? What are like your goals and dreams and ambitions? Like, what would you love to see happen for yourself? Dream outcome.
Oh my goodness. I honestly, like, right now, just think like content creation and like just the doors that it's been able to open, and like the events that I get to go to and the opportunities that it's like opened itself. I feel very like lucky and excited, and so I think that's really cool to just like build a community just like you're doing. I really look up to you in that way, and like your community is so strong and like awesome. And so, I just would love to do that. And I just like want to spread joy, even though like this world is like,
oh, that is you in a nutshell, girl. You're like,
thank you.
Always shining everywhere you go.
Thanks. I know. I just want to be like a place where people feel like light and like can laugh. And it's funny because I'm not funny. Like, I'm really not that funny.
Yes, you are, Madie. Are you kidding? I'm always laughing so when I'm with you.
But like my husband, like I cackle at him. And so sometimes I'll crack a joke and he's like, that was really funny. And then it makes me, I'm like, I'm honored. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, but like for some reason, like pranking him and like stuff, like it's so funny.
Totally.
And so I just want to spread joy and like be like a fun follow for people and like lighthearted and
well, I don't know. You were nailing that because I literally feel that way.
Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of like for me personally, like what I would love to do. And then Mitch, just watching him thrive, honestly, just like again, is like a cherry on top because he's doing his thing and like opening up these new, like, health and wellness center that's coming up, which is really exciting.
I'm so excited about that. Yes.
Yeah. And then like
So
him,
cool.
like building his current company now, like pest control, we still have that. And that's very much a part of our lives. And so he's a very busy man.
Yes.
But like, I just like look at him like, how do you handle everything?
Yes.
Like, somehow
Well,
he's still a good
looks at
dad.
you, thinks the same
Oh,
thing. How do you handle it all as well?
Thanks.
So
Thank you.
that's cool. Okay, so with that, a follow-up question to that is, I want to know, like, how you guys, like, I don't know. I just feel like one of both of your guys' superpowers is collecting people, like collecting relationships.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I knew you studied like the fitness and wellness side of things, but to know that you did communications as well, I'm like, oh my gosh, this just like came full circle. But what do you feel like you do to build relationships around you? Like, I feel like that's one of Mitch's superpowers and that's one of your superpowers, and you're both good at that. Is that like an intentional thing for you guys, or do you feel like it's supernatural, or kind of a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. I will say, like, Mitch, I appreciate you think that's like my superpower too, because like I really value the relationships and I really do deeply care for people and I want them to succeed. Like,
Totally.
I want to be that person where it's like,
You're
I'm
like
your
the
number
best
one
hype
fan.
girl.
No, that's
Yeah.
really what I want. And I
No,
feel like
I
you are
love that.
too. Like, I just love people like that who can be like a safe place for people and like be that hype person for people. But like Mitch's superpower is like collecting people.
Yeah.
Like even like tenfolds me. Like like even these like sauna parties that we have at the house, like
I love them.
It'll
They're
be
my
Monday.
favorite.
Yeah. It'll be Monday and he'd be like, oh, by the way, on Wednesday, like I'm having like 40
Oh
people
my
over.
gosh.
And I'm like, okay, like
Okay,
let's
see
throw
you
a
there.
party, you know?
Yes.
And so I'm like, I just want to be a place where people feel welcome in the house. And like,
Yes.
I want to provide that space, but like, I would never be like, let's have a party.
Totally.
Like, I thrive one-on-one or like double dates.
Yes.
And stuff like that, where I can get very intimate
Yes.
and like impactful conversations where he
Yes.
loves the atmosphere of like, bring a ton of people over, let's have fun. Like, that's his superpower.
Cool.
And I just want to provide the place that
Yes.
to host. And like, I'll come say hi and chat.
Like
and
the other night.
Yeah, but it's like, no, I
totally.
want to talk
She's
to
like,
each and every one of you. I want to
Yes.
sit you down for like 3 hours and like know your story in your
Yes.
life. But like, that can't happen,
Totally.
you know? And so I think that's,
You guys are the good yin and yang
Oh,
with
thanks.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
that's cool.
yeah,
That's super
thanks.
cool. So what would you say? I feel like with this podcast, I really want women to be able to walk away with actionable things. And what would you say is your way of building those relationships? I feel like I have an idea.
like with other
for you.
people,
Yes,
or like,
yes. Like what?
I just think like getting to know people and like understanding people like for who they are. And like, I love how everyone's so different in their own ways.
Yes.
And like
finding their uniqueness.
And like taking bits and pieces and like learning things from different people, I think is really cool. But what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say the thing that I see that you do so well is you're really good at asking quality questions, but then you're also like very validating. Like anytime we're, doing like one of our long voice memos or something, or Instagram, whatever those are called. I just feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about what you're doing and this and that. And you just like raise people's vibration. So
thank you.
I don't know if you knew that about yourself, but I think you do that for everybody. I don't think I'm the only person that you do that for. I think you do that for so many people, and it just it draws people in, and you have a very magnetic personality that people want to be in your space.
Thank you.
So.
And like, not to get religious, but I think like God made us like,
Hey, get religious.
unique, and like different. And so like when, I don't know, I just like want to support people, and like I love watching people live their dreams or like do what they're supposed to do, you know? And I'm like, what you're doing is so important.
Yes.
And like you're impacting like I'm talking about you.
Oh, you're so nice.
Like so many people. And so it's like, yeah, I think what you're doing is incredible.
Oh,
and
thank
you.
Yeah, see, you're so good at it. You're practicing it right now.
You're so nice.
No, I love that. Okay, I just have so many questions. I'm like, how do I nail this down? This is one. Tell me what a day in the life of the Mathews looks like.
Oh my gosh.
Like, tell us a real day in the life, right? Because
Hectic.
we have like the influencer or whatever. Like, tell us
Oh, okay. So in the Mathews, I'm going to start with Mitch's because like I look at him and I'm like, I really need to do that. But so he'll wake up in the morning and he like doesn't look at his phone for like the first hour of the day.
Oh, I love that.
And he'll like go into the office and he'll read and like hang out with us, eat breakfast with us. And like, even though I'm in the chaotic of like getting the girls ready for school and all of that, like he's a very calming presence in the morning and just like helping where he can, going and reading, meditating. So I love that he does that. And then he'll go get a workout in. And then just, again, then the hecticness starts with meetings. And then that's when it's like crazy.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he really tries to stay zen in the morning.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
He does sauna like 2 times a day.
Oh
He's
my gosh,
in cold
that's
plunging. Like
amazing.
he's like
Yes.
so crazy, but I love that for him. And then as for me, again, it's just crazy in the mornings and then finding like me time in the day. Like my daughter is like going to school right now. And then my other daughter naps from like 12 to 3:30, which is amazing. So I have that time to myself.
Long as you can.
I know.
Yes.
I'm like, it's the best. And so that's when I get to be creative and like do all of that. And then in the evening, it's just like family activity.
I love that.
It's very plain Jane, but
No,
like
that's
it's crazy in
awesome.
the day, but I love in the mornings we spend time together. And then in the evenings we're like spending time together, you know,
I love that.
making that a priority. So
like, that comes full circle.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's super cool. Do you feel like if you could change one thing about your day or your habits, what would it be for you right now?
if I could be a morning person and
Okay.
like get me time in the morning, kind of like
Yes.
what Mitch does, like,
Yeah.
cause he wakes up early and
Yeah.
he'll do that. And it's like, I've never been built that way, but that's like a victim, like a mentality thing where it's
Yeah.
like, I say, oh, I'm not a morning person.
Yes.
But
So
I
you're
can be.
perpetuating
Yes.
that.
So that's
Yes.
one thing I'm working on is like
Yes.
trying to get excited to wake up in the morning.
I
you
love
know?
that. Yes.
Because I like have this bad habit of like, I'm with the kids all day. And so then when they go to bed, that's like me time.
Totally.
And then I stay up until like midnight because
and then
I'm
you're like, how am I going to wake up at 4 or 5? Yeah, totally.
So that's like one thing I wish I could like change is like
Okay, I
instead of
love
getting
that.
like the nighttime free time is like the morning free time.
Yes.
So I'm working on that.
Okay, can I put my coaching hat on for a second?
Please.
Okay, one thing I found that works for me with that is everything the night before, right? So like you start your morning the night before. So one thing that's been really good for Shane and I is we reset the house together, and it's kind of like bonding, even though we're not really talking. We're both like tired, you know?
Yeah.
But that has been so helpful. And then what I say to myself the night before, I think is huge. If I look at my phone and I'm like, oh man, I'm only going to get 6 hours of sleep.
That's what I do.
Yes. But I've started to say, oh, I cannot wait to wake up, and I cannot wait for I'm so thankful for the amount of sleep that I get to get or whatever. And then when I wake up, then I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if
then
that's
you have that good
helpful,
mind-
but that's
no,
been,
that
like,
is-
really helpful because I'm
Yeah.
the same way as you.
And it's funny because it's like, I know that's true.
Yes.
But it's like-
actually practicing it is
Yes.
like totally different story.
It's funny because I'm doing 75 hard right now.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I'm reading the 75 hard book.
Yes.
Because you have to like read like 10
Yes.
pages a day or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I'm going to swear, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
I'm
it's
prefacing
fine.
this, but he's
Well,
like...
he swears
he
5,000
does.
times in that book.
And this is what he calls it, but he's like, everyone has that bitch voice where it's like,
yes.
oh, I'm not only getting 6 hours.
Yes.
Oh, I'm only this. And so like,
Yes.
that's something that I'm like trying
simmer
to
that
work
down.
on. Yeah, where it's like,
Yes.
it's more in my head than I think, than I realized. After he read that, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone has that. And I listened to it way too much.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I
we
love
all
that.
do though.
Yeah.
We all do.
Because you're so right.
But
That's so true.
calling that out though, I think is so important to be like, what is that for me? Like, where does that show up, and how can I adjust that?
Yeah.
And
And
get
like
rid
checking
of
yourself, and like you have control over like your mindset and like the situation.
Totally.
It's like, oh, do I want to listen to this voice?
Yes.
Or do I want to listen to this
Yes.
voice? You get a choice.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
like being aware of that has been,
well, and that's so
Good.
empowering,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So 75 hard, how far into it are you? Are you
see,
like
we
beginning?
end in like a week and a half. So
Oh
I'm at
my
the I'm at the
gosh.
tail end.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm at
Is
the tail
Mitch
end.
doing this
Mitch is
too?
doing it
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which
so
has
you're doing
been
it together.
there's some days where it's like harder, and then there's some days where I'm like, oh, that was really easy.
Yes.
And like I feel amazing.
Yes.
So it just
totally.
depends on the day. Where it's
Yes.
like sometimes it's like 11 p.m. and I'm like, oh, I haven't
I
gotten
have
my
to
second
go.
workout
Yeah,
yet. And so Mitch and I
totally.
will be like walking in the dark.
Oh,
like just like
my
around our
gosh.
cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Like,
That is so
you know,
relatable.
stuff like that. But
Yep. Yep.
it's been good.
Is this your first time doing it?
first time
Oh
doing
my
it,
gosh. So
yeah.
do you like it? Has it been
Yeah.
a good fit? Do you recommend it?
Oh, I recommend it, like for sure. And it's like, I know you're not supposed to like cheat in a way, but there has been times where like I'm sick and I'm
Yes.
like, you know what, I'm gonna stretch or,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
stuff like that. So
Totally.
I haven't been perfect, but like it has been like life altering,
Yes.
where it's like Yeah,
I
it's
felt the
changing
same
your
way.
habits every single day.
Totally.
So
Totally.
I would definitely recommend it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
so great. Well, and doing it together, I think it's huge. Shane and I did it together
you
a few
did?
years ago. Yeah. And I felt like it was super bonding. But yeah, we were out there
And holding each
at
other
11
accountable, too.
PM. Like, oh my gosh, we're like reading as we're walking by like the light of our phones because you're like trying to get everything in and drink your water at the same time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you though.
Thanks.
That's really huge.
Thanks.
I love
It's
that.
been good. And just, yeah, it's kind of like a cool bonding experience and holding each
Totally.
other accountable too. Like doing it with somebody holds you accountable.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another question I really wanted to ask. I would love to know if you could share a personal story of how you've made either a personal sacrifice or like a specific personal sacrifice, or another side could be like, do you feel like there's something specific that you've been like, oh, I made an impact by saying this to Mitch? You know, you're like, at the end of the day, you're talking, you know, in your bed or whatever, and you're like, what if you did this or something? I'd just love to know, because I think you are such a support to him that I know he wouldn't have been able to build this the way he has without you. So I want to know a specific story.
It's so funny because I was like thinking about this, and I like, well, the biggest sacrifice that I've made is obviously moving across the country.
Totally.
And like supporting him in that endeavor, and like having meals there for him and like all of that stuff, you know, and like, I think that was a huge sacrifice. But at the end of the day, I think the little moments, like, don't underestimate the little moments. Like, there hasn't been like, at least that I can think of, I bet I'll drive home and be like, oh dang, this was a big thing, you know? But like, the little moments matter, and like, don't underestimate them, because like, even just like complimenting them on like how much you value them, and like, you're working so hard, like what you're doing is like going to change so many lives.
So
and just like giving like words of affirmation, or like supporting them, or be like, hey, I noticed that you do this, like maybe like do this, you know, and like being receptive to each other, and like taking each other's advice and checking each other. But yeah, I don't know.
No,
I just really don't think anyone should underestimate the small moments, because they build up and they, you know, are very impactful.
Totally.
So
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, by small and simple things, great things come to pass, right?
Yeah,
it's like all those little things that people are doing, like whether it's the habits, like what we were just talking about, or whether it's whatever it is, you know, those little moments together. I think that really does make a huge impact, because as an entrepreneur myself, I think of that with Shane. I'm like, oh my gosh, the times when I've like really struggled, he's just had whispered those little words of encouragement that I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm totally getting in my head, you know, because it is blood, sweat, and tears for building whatever you're building. You know, it could be in a career. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurially, but I think having that support system of like, you got this and you're making a difference. And, or when we are getting in our head, like knock that off. Like, you know, there's a bigger purpose here.
Exactly.
You know?
Like having someone check you like that. It's like, you can do that. What do you mean?
What
like,
are you talking about?
Don't listen to that voice.
Yes.
And there's two things that have come to my head as you're talking. The first one is like, Mitch sat me down, like when I was really struggling, like the first year moving out to Georgia. I'm just like, why am I here? Like, why can't I just go? Like, you know, like
you're not even here most of the day.
You're not even here,
like,
and I'm struggling. I'm miserable. Like, and then he sat me down. He's like, do you know why this is really important to me? And like, gave me the reasons as why, and like why I needed to be there for him, and why this. And so I think sitting your partner down and being like, hey, this is really important to me. This is why.
This is my mission.
And like, do you want to be on board with me or not?
Yes.
You know? And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I want to be on board. And like, that's really important to you. And so I think just like vocalizing that and getting them on board is really important. Ever since then, I'm like, oh, he wants to do this, and I get it. And so it's like, whatever he needs to, because nothing comes, you know, good things don't come easy. Like, it's hard work. And so I don't think relationships are always 50-50. I think sometimes like it could be 75, both 70. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not good at math. 70-30, and then like vice versa. Or there's times where it's like postpartum. I don't know why. It's really hard for me. And so like there's times where I'm like, hey, you got to step up because I'm struggling. And he really does, you know? So like there's just like times and like the waves of like being there for each other. And sometimes it's okay to be the supportive one. And also it's okay to get help and like be supported.
Yes, I love that. Okay, let me talk on that for a second because, oh my gosh, I feel like I totally needed to hear you say that. So Shane and I just went to Bali a couple weeks ago for a 10-year wedding anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. It was so fun. But one of the most like memorable parts was we made promises, kind of like vows to each other.
Cute.
And it was so cool. And one of the things that really stood out to me of what Shane said that I'm like almost get emotional about is he's like, because I'm super independent, like I can relate to everything that you're saying because I'm like, I have my own things going, all these things, and I want to support him as well. But he said, I like promised you that I am going to be there to like catch you and like all the struggles or whatever, because I know you have a big purpose of like where you're going. And I feel like sometimes I'm like, when I come home, I'm like, oh, I don't have to be the strong one. I don't have to be the leader. I get to like kind of be cradled almost. And like Shane is so good at that. And so I see that in you guys where it's like, you get to be that safe spot to be like, he can be vulnerable with you and he can not have to be the leader and he can be like just have like a soft place to land. And I think that's so important. Like I'm sure he does that for you too. And I hope I do that for Shane as well. But like, I think there's something so beautiful about a marriage that you get to support each other in all of that and be like, hey, I know you're doing this crazy big thing over here, but also like I'm your solid. I'm here. Like,
well, it's exhausting to be on it all the time. And like, it's exhausting. So having someone to be that person for you and catching you and just like a listening ear. And sometimes it's good to just vent and like not say anything, just to have someone just
be like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I love that. Okay. What was your second thing?
Oh, that was it. Just like the 50-50, like, just, it's never fit. In my opinion, I don't think it's ever going to be 50-50. There's times where you have to sacrifice.
Totally.
And vice versa. He's going to have to, he's going to have to sacrifice. So.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I think that really is such a huge, huge piece of it. Okay. I think this is going to be my last question, but I'd love for you to expand at the end. I'm like, if it is going to be my last question, I got to like make sure it's totally what I want. How does what does Mitch do to help you feel like a valued partner? And what would you say you do for him as well?
It's so funny because, in this era of stay-at-home mom, sometimes it's like, is this really important? Like cleaning the dishes and doing the laundry and like wiping butts? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, is this really like my life? You know? But it's like, I feel bad saying that because I'm so privileged for that to be my life.
Yes, yes.
But I think both can be true. I'm like, this is really hard. Like what more is there?
Yeah.
And, and I think Mitch does a really good job of when I get in those like mindsets of like, oh my gosh, I'm just like so frustrated or whatever. He's really good at like being like, no, like I wouldn't be able, like the fact that you're, to do what I do. And like, I really value what you're doing. Like what you're doing is so important. And I think he does a really good job of like validating me and like what I'm doing is important and it's impactful. And like, I don't know, but then he's also like, yeah, you'd be so good at whatever you want to do. Like he doesn't like put a limit on it. He's like, the world's your oyster. And like, you're so good at doing this. Like you were meant to be a mom, like the best mom. And I'm like, thank you,
Yes.
So I think just
appreciated.
He does a really good job making me feel valued and appreciated, which is so awesome. Huge. Because I think no one's better than the other. Like no partner is more important. And like you guys are equals, right?
Yes.
And so whatever that looks like, you're building this empire together. And so, don't forget how important you each are.
That is so cool. Yeah. Do you feel like, just as talking to you today, I'm like, do you feel like your love language is words of affirmation? Or what are your love languages?
I think mine are like acts of service.
Okay.
I think. I mean, it's weird. I'm like a very like chill, low key, but then there's some times where it's like he just knows what to say.
It's like really impactful.
He's really good at reading me. I think women are kind of hard to read in general.
Yes.
But he does a really good job of it where he's like, you're like, something's going on. Like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. And he's like, I'm like, okay, fine, and like
this,
and so he does a really good job of like checking me and like being a safe place for me to just like vent.
Totally.
What was your question? I went on a tangent.
Does your like words of affirmation or your
yeah,
love
where I
languages?
think his is words of affirmation. But yeah, knowing your love languages is really important.
Yeah.
Because like just because yours is one and then you go do that doesn't mean it's like they're gonna receive
receiving
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just see I think that's your superpower, is just like encouraging people to see like their true selves or their purpose, or like leaning into that.
Have you
So I
ever
think it's
is
so
it
good.
Enneagram?
Yeah.
Have you taken
Enneagram?
yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a 3-wing 2. Do you know what you are?
I don't remember.
Do
I think
you
I was a
remember?
6.
Oh, a 6. Yeah.
I don't remember. I'll have to look. But like I remember reading it and being like, you are so good at lifting up others, and like you genuinely feel
I think
like
you'd
when
be
other
a 2,
people,
which is a helper.
I think it was a 2.
Was it a 2?
I think it was
I'm
a
not
2
good at
wings. Is it
diagnosing.
2 wing 6?
So when you're with your Enneagram, you're only the wing next to you. So if it's like 3, you'd be 3-wing 2 or 3-wing 4. We'll have to look it up after.
It was either 2 or 6, and I
curious who you
screenshot
are.
it, so I'll have to like go back and find it. But it was like the helper, and like like it was like you thrive in like a clean household.
Yeah, you might be a 2-wing 1,
Yeah.
which is a helper wing perfectionist.
I think that's what
Is that it? Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I love like having my like space
Yes.
like clean, so that way when other people come over, it's like
Totally.
they can feel that too. But then it's like if there's anywhere that I can help somebody, I'm like, I'm there.
You're like, I'm there.
That's where I
Yes, that is
thrive. Where I'm like,
so
that's where
you.
I feel like I can help people. So I think when I say acts of service, maybe because that's like what I want to do for people.
Totally.
And so I like
make
portray
them
that.
feel,
Yeah.
make them feel a certain way, or supported, or loved, or seen, or encouraged. Yeah.
And I
could
think
totally see
words
that
of
in you.
affirmation, I feel like I love giving that too, but I don't necessarily feel like I need it back.
Totally.
But it's always nice to hear.
Of course.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although we're not going to turn down any like
never.
Yes. No, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you like, for the listeners, what do you want people to know? Like, I guess this is really my last question, but like, what do you want to leave people with like, today?
I think that it's okay to have like seasons. Like if I'm talking about like wives specifically, like I think that everyone has seasons, and it's okay to lean into it, and like you don't need to be everything for everybody. And I think just like valuing the seasons that are coming to you, and that doesn't define you in that moment, but it's just something that like you're just going through in the moment, I think is really beautiful. And like for my stay-at-home moms, like what you're doing is important, and it's a season, and just enjoy it. But that doesn't mean that like there's not something else out there that you can go chase. Like the world is your oyster, and like what you tell yourself, like just whatever it is, like manifesting and stuff like that, I think is really huge. Like you can achieve what you want to, and just like believing in it. And oh man, I don't know. I just like,
no, I love that. Well, and I
just
think
want everyone to be happy.
I think, yes, I love you. I think a huge part of that, so with the Live Big Collective, like we talk a lot about living big, right? And I think everyone has a different definition of what living big looks like to them. And to me, I feel like you just defined that. Like for you, it's like, this is my season. I'm living big. I'm going all in on that.
Yeah.
And maybe my season's going to change. And it sounds like it's even shifting right now a little bit. You know, you're adding new things in. And so I think that's huge, because it allows, and hopefully it gives the listeners permission to say, like, how am I living big? Like, what season am I like full in, all in?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it's 100% of your focus, but whatever you're focusing on, you're putting that hat on 100%.
Yeah.
And then you switch hats, and you know, you do all the hats and all the things.
I love
that
the
you wanna
hats
do.
thing, where it's just like women can wear so many hats, and it's just like, just value, you know, what
Each
you can
one.
do.
Yes.
And I think that's, I think you're right. Just like from being a soccer player to like being a wife, and then to being a mom. And then it's just like you still have your core in there. That's you, and like stay true to that.
Totally.
And,
But it's that editing.
but
and
it's the editing
expanding
and like growing. And it's like, you can't grow if you're comfortable all the time. Like you got to expand yourself and like accept it.
Totally.
So I think that's what I would take from, or like want to give to people, is like just value what you're doing now, but also accept the change that's coming.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I want to close with a little surprise for you.
Oh.
So I asked Mitch to write. Yeah, I asked him to write like a little note to you of
that's so
just
cute.
appreciation for you. So I want to read that to you.
Aw.
He said, Madie, I love you, baby. The Mathews aren't the Mathews without your ability to make sure the family runs correctly. You're one in kindness. Oh my gosh, you're one in kindness, patience, your lovable energy, and sexiness. I'm nothing without my baby. Love you forever, Mitch.
Oh, that's such a Mitch.
So you're like, yep, that's him.
And just like his voice behind that, I'm like laughing. That's
You're
so
like,
funny.
that was
That's
him
so
for
sweet.
sure.
That's so sweet.
Anyway, but
That's really cute that you would do that.
oh, well, I just want you to feel special and important and seen for
Thanks.
what you're doing, because that's really what this is all about. Is I want to bring some of these stories to the surface of like what you're doing is so valuable, and you are making such an impact with your girls. Like, are you
Thanks.
kidding? They get to see you.
Same with you.
Like, be a mom. Oh, you're so
Yeah.
nice. But like, they get to see you be a mom and be a supporter and be a Madie Mathews, right? And like show up how you want to. And I think that's what's really making such an impact in the world, is what happens in the home. And so I'm just so proud of you. And I'm so proud that I get to have you as a friend to
Thanks.
have an influence on me, because you inspire me to do the same and to want to live in my season fully, you know, and lean into that.
I
So
love that. I think like you are who you surround yourself with, and I would like love to be around you. Like, I know we live kind of far, but it's
Yeah,
like I
we're
want to
always
be
trying
around
to
you, because
figure it
every
out.
time I'm with you, I just like want to gravitate towards you.
Aw.
Like, you're just an amazing person, carry an amazing energy. So I can truly say the same about you. So.
thanks, Madie girl.